All right. Welcome, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. We're going to go ahead and get started. I know a few people are still joining, but we've got a good crowd here. I just wanted to say welcome to today's webinar entitled Spring Forward, Strengthening Supply Chain and Security with SBOMs. My name is Latoya Taylor, and I'm a manager here at SIE. And I'll be your guide for today's discussion as we explore how the software bill of materials, or SBOMs, play a vital role in securing your organization's software supply chain. Whether you're in the federal space or the commercial sector, we welcome you today. We hope that you find something insightful that you can bring back to your organization or agency. Just a little bit about me. At SIE, I lead teams that support federal agencies in navigating challenges across IT asset management, software asset management, and cybersecurity. I also have a background in project management, and I focus on delivering strategic solutions, just like today's spotlight on SBOMs, that build resilience, drive smarter decision-making, and align with evolving compliance requirements. Now, listen, I'm going to be real with you this morning. Most people, when they think of spring, they think of sunshine, flowers, fresh starts. Me, I think of spring cleaning. And I immediately dread it because I hate cleaning, but I want to just really get that renewed and refreshed sense that the season has. So I'd honestly rather just spend my time diving into a good webinar like this one, right? So here we are. But in all seriousness, just like we declutter our homes this time of year, organizations need to spring into action and tidy up their software environments. It's time to clean out outdated, vulnerable, or unnecessary components. And that's where SBOMs come in. Think of today as your digital deep clean, airing out linen closet of legacy code and tossing the expired spice jars of software vulnerabilities. Expired. I know you guys have seen that commercial. And the best part, we have Eracent, Eracent's SBOM Manager, which is the perfect tool to help you do just that, keeping your software ecosystem fresh, transparent, and secure. We are thrilled today to have Terry Divalbliss, the Senior Vice President of Eracent, joining us. With over 25 years of experience in ITAM, SAM, cybersecurity, and the list goes on, by the way. Terry brings deep expertise and practical lens on how organizations can leverage SBOMs to mitigate risk, meet mandates, and future-proof their operations. Also joining me in this conversation are my dear colleagues from SIE. We have Senior Specialist Melissa Golden and Stephanie Pepe, who bring extensive experience with Eracent Solutions and ITAM's best practices. They'll be jumping in throughout the session to help me and keep you guys engaged with Terry in our key discussion around SBOM adoption, implementation, and what's coming next. I'll now turn it over to you, Terry, Melissa, and Stephanie for your quick introductions.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the webinar. Thank you for joining us. My name is Terry Divalbliss. I'm the Senior Vice President of Marketing and Technical Alliances for Eracent. I've been in the IT asset management and SAM space for over 25 years. As Latoya said, 22 or 23 of those years at Eracent. And I've spent the past couple years diving deeper into a number of aspects of cybersecurity management, and in particular, the SBOM management and what that means for organizations.
Hello, I'm Melissa Golden, and I'm a Senior ITAM Technical Specialist at SIE with a background in IT engineering and system architecture. I focus on implementing effective IT asset management strategies that align with organizational goals. I'm looking forward to exploring the role of SBOMs and strengthening your cybersecurity posture during today's session.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stephanie Pepe. I am a senior specialist at SIE with over 10 years of experience in software asset management and software licensing audits. I specialize in helping organizations optimize their software assets and ensure compliance with licensing agreements. I'm excited to discuss how SBOMs can enhance your software supply chain security today.
Perfect. So just before we dive in, I just wanted to point out a quick housekeeping note that we have here on the slide for you, just so that we can get the most out of today's session. Please note at the beginning of this call, we did turn on the recording and transcription. So if you have to step away, no worries. You're registered and you will receive this recording and the slides after the session. So feel free to sit back, relax, and be present in this moment with us. We'd love to hear from you throughout the session. So if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. That's also enabled for you as well. If you have any questions, we have some time in the session at the end to address those, and we'll get to as many as we can. We've also muted all the participants by default just to keep the audio nice and crisp and clear for everyone for the replay. But again, don't be shy, use that chat. We've got it live for you. And of course, if you experience any technical issues, we've got our wonderful team in the background just to send a message in the chat, sorry. And we'll get to that question that you have or address that issue. All righty. Next slide, please. Here's our agenda for today. We've already covered those housekeeping items. So we've curated a power-packed agenda here that flows from foundational knowledge, because we do know that some folks here on the call may not be familiar with SBOMs. No worries, you'll definitely have great takeaways after this session. So whether you're brand new to SBOMs or you're just looking to level up your current strategy, we have something for you here. We'll kick things off today with just an introduction to SBOMs, what they are, and why they're increasingly critical to federal agencies. And then we'll explore cybersecurity implications in the government space, especially around risk mitigation and compliance. And we haven't forgotten about you commercial folks here on the call. We'll take a look at SBOMs in big commercial sectors like healthcare, finance, critical infrastructure, because this isn't just a government conversation anymore. And then from there, we'll introduce you to Eracent's SBOM Manager tool and how it can support your organization's journey toward full software transparency and resilience. I got to put this shameless plug out there for SIE. We are tool agnostic, but we are happy to partner with Eracent today because they are leading the way in the SBOM management space. And we'll also walk through a real life case study on how those SBOMs are being implemented in practice. Finally, we'll wrap it up with the roundtable Q&A. So please feel free to drop your questions in the chat. We do have some pre-submitted questions that we'll go ahead and answer at the top of that piece. And then we'll close out with some concrete next steps and takeaways to help you spring into action. Next slide, please. All righty. So the big question on everybody's minds, what is an SBOM? What is it? Why are we here? Simply put, an SBOM or software bill of materials is a detailed inventory or ingredient list of all components in a piece of software. It allows agencies to track and verify what's inside their software applications, ensuring full transparency and security. Also, we have the hardware bill of materials as well, or HBOMs, and those are going to center around procurement and configuration management. So Terry, can you break down the critical role that both SBOMs and HBOMs play in modern cybersecurity, and what essential details organizations should expect to see in each to ensure transparency, trust, and compliance?
Sure, absolutely. Okay, your SBOM typically includes, as you mentioned, it's like an ingredients list. It's going to show you a lot of the software components, the libraries. It's basically the DNA or the origin for every line of code. So you have version numbers, relationships. One thing that we're going to downplay today, because we're focusing on compliance and the security side, is even the types of open source licenses. And those open up a whole other can of worms with risk as far as what you're allowed to do with the code or not allowed to do with the code. But we'll save that for another separate conversation. But you're able to see, though, the relationships and the dependencies between the libraries, the components, and how it all fits into the code and how you're using it. So it's really critical. The main one we're talking about today is for identifying vulnerabilities. Very important. We'll circle back to that in just a second. Ensuring compliance with federal and other industry mandates. And you want to, the bottom line is really securing your software supply chain, knowing what you have, where it came from, and making sure it's locked up. Without an SBOM, you don't have really any visibility into what's running in your environment, and it makes it harder to detect threats like everybody remembers the infamous Log4j or the SolarWinds hacks from a couple years back, probably been 4 years at this point.
Yes, we do.
And more recently, the XZ utils, I believe there was a backdoor hack there too. If you notice the photo there, I see that the artistic gang put in a basement photo, and that comes from an analogy that I typically use. A lot of vulnerability and security tools out there are looking, and for years have looked at products and versions and said, there's a vulnerability in this product or version. But the analogy I use is that's like you've built a house or a new facility, you put in cameras, put great locks on the doors, you're in a gated area, you've taken care of keeping things from getting in from the outside, but nobody went down to the corner of the basement and opened that little door and went, oh my gosh, there's Log4j in here. There were things that you didn't even know you were supposed to look for, components and libraries hiding. Nobody was looking for those, and ta-da, that's where the hack or the breach came from. And now we all know a lot better, and that's where the SBOM comes into play. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Terry, for that.
Sure.
With cyber threats, they're currently evolving, and I know federal agencies must stay ahead. And you did mention compliance. So SBOM play a critical role in securing software supply chains. You did mention the regulatory compliance. So SBOMs themselves will help agencies comply with executive orders like 14028, NIST SP 800-218, and OMB M-2218, which covers the government contracting space. In terms of incident response, when vulnerabilities arise, agencies can quickly identify affected software and patch accordingly. And then that zero trust architecture, or ZTA, SBOMs align with those ZTA policies, ensuring continuous verification and software integrity.
Terry, I have a question for you.
Okay.
What are the main SBOM standards and how do they relate to compliance requirements?
Okay, that's a real good question. There are 3 competing standards, formats, SPDX, CycloneDX, and SWID, like the software ID, similar to what you would see in like the ISO-2 standards, 19770-2, the software ID, that kind of format. But in every one of those cases, the contents themselves get provided in a JSON file that can be ingested by other tools. So they give you, each of those formats gives you structured, consistent data about those software libraries and components, and you get consistency and you get interoperability, across industries, across agencies. No matter what platforms you're using, you have a consistent data set you can work on, and you can really rely on those different standards, whether you're using information and sources from NIST, GitHub, OMB, you're dealing with mandates like Executive Order 14028. You want to basically, the bottom line is to ensure that your software that you get is secure and that is trustworthy, and everybody has a warm, fuzzy feeling that you're putting this on your environment. It's been fully vetted and tested.
Hi, Terry. Stephanie here. How do SBOMs relate to vulnerability management frameworks and trusted sources like, for example, common vulnerabilities and exposures, common vulnerability scoring system, and national vulnerability databases?
And there are different types, ones with different scopes of capability in them, but the SBOM management and analysis tools really do integrate and pull data constantly and continuously from vulnerability databases, like you mentioned, the ones from NIST, like the common vulnerabilities and exposures known as CVE, the CVSS, which gives you common vulnerability scoring system. There is a method to the madness and a consistency in scoring to know that these were all, it's apples to apples when you're looking at, what are my risks and what's the scoring, what's really bad, what's not so bad, and going from there. You have the NVD, the National Vulnerability Database, comes from NIST, but there are other sources as well out there, like the GitHub Advisory, and there are others globally that are, equally trusted, that are good sources as well. So what this means, though, is that the agencies can really cross-reference very quickly and cross-check your components that you have in your software against known vulnerabilities that have been reported and tested, and a lot of times even having mitigation steps out there for them that lets you do proactive patching, mitigation, and remediation when vulnerabilities or potential threats are found.
Thanks so much, Terry, for all of that information. And just so that you all are aware, there were some issues in the chat. So the chat should be active now for everyone. So if you are having issues typing in the chat, please try logging out and logging back into the webinar to resolve those issues. All right. Jumping back in, I'm hoping so far that something said about SBOMs has resonated with you in terms of cybersecurity implications of SBOMs in the government space. We are going to switch gears a bit and go to the cybersecurity implications of SBOMs for commercial use, in case folks out there are wondering. So beyond federal agencies, SBOMs are becoming increasingly vital in commercial industries, including healthcare, finance, critical infrastructure, and manufacturing. These sectors handle sensitive data, rely on complex software ecosystems, and face rising cybersecurity threats. So Terry, can you kind of delve into how SBOMs enhance security and compliance in commercial use?
Same concepts, a little bit different approach, a little bit different set of requirements, and we're foreshadowing, I think, a few things we'll probably talk a little bit about later. There are a couple of major industries where mandates have come into play. A lot of times, there are some mandates that are like 14028 that impacts the contractors or software suppliers that provide things to government and federal agencies. In the commercial side, these mandates apply to the organizations and prescriptive things that they need to do. First of all, in the healthcare side, there's healthcare compliance and patient safety is a big piece of this. The FDA, through one of the bills, requires SBOMs now to be provided for any medical device coming in. If you're buying medical devices and they have an operating system or software on it, you need to provide an SBOM to manage. So that helps track components, prevent cybersecurity vulnerabilities in these life-critical systems. If you think about things like ventilators, dialysis, machines like that where people's lives depend on those, not a good place to have a hack or a breach. And healthcare providers and hospitals can also use their SBOMs to identify and mitigate any other risks in their health records systems and any network medical devices. So those are things that certainly fit in the world of IoT or Internet of Things type devices, without a doubt.
Perfect. I just wanted to pause a moment because you said something that really resonated with me, because when lives are on the line, knowing what's in your software isn't optional, it's essential. You know, this really hits home for me. I have a cousin who's hospitalized right now and was on a ventilator. And knowing that they have mandates like this in place to, ensure that, healthcare providers and things of the like in those systems are providing or having to, fulfill that mandate of providing those SBOMs is really important. Helps me feel better.
There's another area that's probably near and dear to most people as well. Not quite the same on the personal and human level, but financial services and banking security. That's a second area here. You're looking at the financial sector. It really depends a lot on third-party software solutions and also on the cloud services that they utilize. SBOMs, again, help financial institutions look at risk, ensure compliance with the mandates and regulatory frameworks. A big one here is the New York State Department of Financial Services 500, or DFS 500 for short. You'll probably hear clients or your own organizations talking about that. There's other mandates, in from the SEC, PCI DSS, and others that help mitigate threats to customer data and safeguard the financial networks that we're using around the globe.
Awesome. So really, in short, SBOMs can really help in this financial space. In finance, trust is currency. And so SBOMs help protect both.
Yep, absolutely. Another area, shouldn't be surprising, but we've seen this the past couple of years when we've exhibited and talked about SBOMs at different Gartner conferences and things like that. A lot of utilities, not just in the US, but globally, and that could be considered, critical infrastructure, gas, electric, transportation, water systems. A lot of these have come up to us and said, hey, we've been hearing about SBOMs and what we need to do with these. We're not under a full mandate yet, but we think it's coming. So you have all this operational technology that's used by critical infrastructure organizations, all these industrial control systems that facilitate all of this and keep these systems running. They are being targeted by cyber criminals, without a doubt. So the SBOMs, again, give these organizations visibility into their supply chain dependencies. They help utilize, all these utilities, all the infrastructure providers. It helps them preemptively and proactively identify potential vulnerabilities, make the changes and patches and things upfront, before something does happen that impacts thousands or millions of people.
Awesome. So yeah, when that power grid's at risk, the software behind it needs to be bulletproof, is what you're really saying. It's got to be.
All these industries pardon?
Oh, I was just going to say that when the power grid's at risk, the software behind it needs to be bulletproof.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. You might want to ask the fine citizens of Puerto Rico right now that just went through a blackout. Not quite sure what exactly caused that one yet, but that's the sort of impact that an attack on critical infrastructure can certainly have. So one other area that kind of crosses a lot of these industries and sectors that we've talked about is that just like the government agencies have been doing the past few years, a lot of private organizations now are looking and researching and shifting over to zero trust security models. And the SBOM might be one of the ultimate tools to utilize, and with the zero trust principles of making sure we've flipped over every rock and looked under every door in the basement to make sure that there's nothing bad lurking out there. So with the zero trust principles, you're continuously ensuring and monitoring, and looking for software integrity. You're looking to detect any vulnerabilities that might be out there, and you want to automate your compliance enforcement every day, all day, continuously.
Automation. I like the sound of that. So also with zero trust, it looks like it's an overarching theme here with federal and commercial cybersecurity implications. So zero trust starts with knowing exactly what's running in your environment. And so SBOMs really deliver that visibility so we can get all of that junk out of our basements.
Exactly.
So with all these insights, Terry, like how do you see SBOM adoption? Can't talk today. SBOM adoption evolving across these industries.
As I think I just gave a one really good example with the critical infrastructure and the utilities. Certainly, the mandates on the government, the healthcare, and the banking side are giving them a push. It's pushing adoption. There's pressure to do that. There's potential penalties if you don't. So that's really launching the momentum and gaining momentum in those particular industries, healthcare, finance, manufacturing, and so forth. Regulatory pressure there, and just the increased cybersecurity threats that they've been seeing in those industries. But so SBOM adoption is really being emphasized by those mandates and the agencies or the groups that could be impacted the most for their software supply chain security. But you're finding that other organizations are seeing and hearing more about the benefits. I mean, even webinars like these and the messaging that organizations that offer SBOM management are providing, there's more awareness out there. If it's good for them, why isn't my huge commercial organization worth billions of dollars? Aren't we worth looking into and protecting our software supply chain too? So you're going to see more voluntary, proactive adoption, and investigation, experimentation as to how we can be impacted, how we can benefit from managing SBOMs and analyzing these properly.
Hey Terry, what tools are available for SBOM creation and management?
There are a number of tools out there that are available. There are commercial tools that are out there like Eracent's SBOM Manager. There are some open source tools. There's some freeware. They all do, as I mentioned earlier, different things, different amounts of functionality, different scope. There's overlap in many cases, but there are a lot of things that are unique to different types of tools that are out there. So there's some open source ones like OWASP dependency checks, SIFT, Snake, different tools that are out there to be used. I'll bring up, without turning this into a commercial, certainly, but Eracent's SBOM manager brings a little bit different approach than creating SBOMs, because a lot of the SBOM creation tools have been out here for years for AppSec dev teams, your teams that are developing tools internally or for clients, where they're doing checkpoints along the way during development to make sure everything we're using there are no vulnerabilities, we're using the right types of code and licensing and so forth. There are other tools, though, like Eracent's SBOM Manager. We're providing centralized management of the SBOMs all in one place with the analysis and the reporting. And I'll get to a lot more details, but these tools really help organizations automate your SBOM management overall and integrate your SBOM data into security workflows with tools that you very well may already have in place. So this provides an extra step of value to the tool sets and processes you're already using. It's another piece of the puzzle.
And how do organizations typically adopt and implement SBOMs?
It's still early days where, a lot of even software publishers right now, your external third-party vendors, your IBMs, your Oracles, your Microsofts, Red Hat, all of the above are just now getting to where they're responding to the mandates. I sell to the federal government. I need to provide these. I'm a vendor of medical devices. I need to provide an SBOM. You're still in the early days where organizations are not yet swamped with massive numbers of SBOMs, but it's increasing probably on a weekly or monthly basis for them. So one thing they want to do is see what SBOMs and what providers we're getting them from. What else do we have in the software ecosystem where we are not yet getting SBOMs, but what's our volume that we can expect? And you want to be able to identify areas where the SBOMs can add immediate value. Where you can go back and say, there's a reason we're doing this. There's a reason we're putting this into place, like vulnerability management. Again, the license reporting, compliance reporting for the mandates, or even software procurement. One thing that we always recommend to our clients is if you're doing a POC of a new software product, get an SBOM. Give it to your security teams. Make sure procurement knows this was vetted. They were willing to give us an SBOM. We feel confident with this new software that we're bringing it in. So, it certainly helps, the vulnerability, compliance reporting, procurement. Also, as I mentioned before, the DevSecOps teams, the pipelines of new software that's coming in, even being created in-house or by vendor partners. Your ITM teams and software asset management teams should certainly be aware of the software we're bringing in and having this be part of that process overall for continuous monitoring and compliance. SBOMs really are one essential piece of an effective cyber program. Without them, there's a big gap. Okay. So once again, without going into a deep commercial here, one thing I wanted to bring up, we definitely understand the challenges that the federal agencies have faced in managing software security. That's why we did develop the SBOM Manager going back probably about 3 years now. It's a comprehensive tool that was designed for automated SBOM management as a whole. One of the reasons we bring that up is you want to be able to manage all of your SBOMs from all of these publishers in one place. There are organizations, as I said, that are developing software. There are organizations that consume software that they buy from, your big publishers or from things that were custom built for them. One thing I'll bring up is that if a Log4j type event happens, nobody wants to say, wow, I only have 500 or 1,500 SBOMs. I only have to look for each one of those and see, is Log4j in any of those? So by having a tool that gives you that comprehensive repository, it puts it all in one place and makes it much faster and easier to identify anything that might be impacted by a new vulnerability. So we certainly do the real-time, the vulnerability tracking, the compliance monitoring to see what's out there. And we integrate with other cybersecurity, ITM and SAM workflows and tools that are out there. So circling back for 30 seconds here, our tool set, like I said, meets the needs not only of software developers, but by organizations that are buying software from so many other vendors and you'll have just a big distributed mess of SBOMs everywhere. Having a tool like this pulls them into one place. Excuse me. We do offer a lot of information for every SBOM, within the SBOM, every library, every component. You can see what's the risk score for this one. Is this something that's a threat? We have it in 90% of our products. It's a high risk of having a vulnerability. What's the level of criticality? If something happens here, what's impacted? How quickly do we need to prioritize fixing this? And looking at dependencies. Vulnerability data, as we said earlier, is brought in from NIST, the NVD database, GitHub Advisory, OSV, and other trusted sources that are used around the world to get this all in one place and do the analysis. Gives you a lot of visibility. When a new vulnerability gets reported, you immediately know, do I have anything that's impacted based on the info that was in the SBOMs? And you're also looking at version tracking and obsolescence management. I think, Latoya, you might have been in a session at IATM last year where we were told there was a major network controller tool out there, big vendor that everybody knows of. They were using libraries from like 2002. Doesn't mean that those were necessarily hacked or vulnerable, but when you're using libraries that are 23 years old and maybe nobody's looked at them in a while or double checked them, you open up some risk there. So anyway, that's where the obsolescence really comes into play as well. So that's the high level, very, very high level, top of the surface of what the SBOM Manager tool can do and how it adds benefit to any organization.
Hey, Terry, question for you. How often
Sure.
how often do SBOMs change, and how often should they be updated?
Okay. If you're a vendor or if you're producing things in your application development teams internally, automation certainly helps this, but the bottom line rule and best practice would be you want to update SBOMs whenever your software changes. If it's a bigger, longer development process, you're probably not going to do it hourly or even daily, but every couple of days. I'm sure the dev teams do these as a checkpoint so they don't go too far down a bad path. So you're going to do that when software is changing that way. And whenever you're buying new products or new versions or even potentially patches that are coming in for major tools, you want to make sure you're getting an SBOM with that and doing that security check before you apply that patch or that new upgraded version. So whenever software changes is the answer to that, Melissa, and that really helps you with real-time, accuracy and the security from that standpoint. Okay. All right. So take a look at a case study here, really of how in the real world organizations are leveraging SBOMs. Let me take a look. I'm gonna have to read a couple things on my slide here for this one, but I'm gonna give you an idea. This is a customer that we felt was a perfect case study because they're a huge banking organization and a software development organization that serves banks, HR type software and payment information. It's a company with 55,000 employees, so very, very large. But the advantage of, and they operate across all kinds of banking sectors, the retail side, corporate banking, investment banking. So they're subject to many in the US and in Europe, many different mandates that need to be done because they are a global organization. The big important thing to note here is they're both a software developer, developing things for other organizations in the banking and HR industries, but they're also a banking organization themselves. So they're buying huge amounts of software from other, major vendors, just like every other large agency or organization. What they've done is they've really significantly reduced their unmanaged software vulnerabilities. They know exactly what they have now because they have visibility. They've been able to patch, prioritize, and make the best, smartest steps there over the past probably 2-year period, maybe just slightly longer on that. We've worked with this company from pretty early on in the SBOM Manager existence. This has really helped them 100% adhere and stay on top of the industry regulations, as I mentioned, ISO 27001, GDPR, NIST mandates, DORA, which is the Digital Operations Resilience Act in the EU, CRA, and it reduces their legal risk by knowing that we've done this and have been covered proactively, that we're doing these things up front. It's really helped them with license compliance checks. As I mentioned with license compliance, are you using very restrictive open source licenses that really tie your hands, or are you using things that are permissive that say, go ahead, use it however you want, share it, change it, whatever works for you. Those are the things that you typically want to use coding in open source. It's really helped them streamline their software license management as well. They have a standard SBOM approach. It reduces deployment time for software, and it lets for a lot better cross-group collaboration between your development teams, your security teams, and your compliance teams, because everybody has a standard point of reference, and it's helped them reduce their cost as well. Cloud migration, looking for license violations that could lead you to financial penalties. Just to give an idea of usage, though, this organization has literally 200 users. It doesn't mean they're using SBOM Manager all day, every day, but as part of their tasks, 200 people across the organization, they're refreshing 300 SBOMs every single day and 100,000 libraries every single day, checking, making sure they're current, updating if you need to. That's a huge volume, and that's where the automation comes into play. They have over 3,500 SBOMs that are live and active to date, and they have a target of over 5,000. So that's significant. You're not going to do that without a proper tool supporting you, automating and driving that process. And they've been able to integrate the SBOM management into multiple development platforms, and they've been able to make it a big part of their business processes and software QC processes as well. Okay. One, please.
Perfect.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Let's see here. We have now some time for some questions and answers. We did want to just kick this session off with just the roundtable. We do have some pre-submitted questions before the webinar, so we can go ahead and get started with those.
Sure.
So, Terry, can an SBOM prevent a supply chain attacks?
Itself truly a gatekeeper or a monitor, if you will, but the information that's in there gives you the transparency and the visibility to see down the road, before we bring in something that's bad, or to give you visibility, we have something in here that may be a threat or a potential risk. It gives you that transparency to let you see anything that you shouldn't trust. There is the zero trust principles again. Is there anything that's untrusted or potentially vulnerable as far as components or libraries? You know what you have there before it becomes an issue, and you're able to address it proactively. So I would say indirectly, yes, it can help prevent an attack, even though it itself is not a gatekeeper or detection. It is certainly prevention and proactive visibility.
Terry, what is the future of SBOMs in cybersecurity and software development?
The biggest point is seeing the growth and the expansion of SBOM, both from an awareness and the practical implementation and utilization of SBOMs. So we're seeing the increased regulatory mandates that are out there. New ones pop up here, both in the U.S. and North America, but we're also seeing Japan, South Korea, Germany. They're putting in things that are similar, but not identical. They have their own slant or standards or priorities, industry-wise and so forth. But we're seeing so much more awareness, adoption, putting these kind of best practices and frameworks into place around the world. We're going, without a doubt, to see broader industry adoption, whereas as the whether it's mandates or that the benefits are realized and publicized. As I said, you're going to have these big multi-billion-dollar corporations saying, wait a second, this is crazy that we're not looking at these. There's a reason that the U.S. government and the DoD are mandating this. There's a reason behind it. We have network environments and software too. We should be doing this. And I think also the fact that things are being far more automated integration with other security systems, that's going to basically just ease the way for continued adoption there. So I think in the near future, SBOMs are going to be an essential component really of every software supply chain that's out there. It's going to ensure that you have transparency. You can trust the software that you're using and you're deploying, and you're going to have compliance across multiple industries or all industries.
How are AI and automation impacting SBOM generation and analysis?
So AI and automation, as with anything, the goal is to bring in really accuracy is a big one, efficiency, and then to make things actionable, to take steps, to automate workflows, to automate mitigation and other actions that you have. So the machine learning algorithms are out there. They can help detect any anomalies that are out there. They can help map dependencies and really correlate your vulnerability, any vulnerable. Boy, we were talking about this before the call. That's a hard word to say. At speed.
I told you.
And really be able to, correlate the vulnerabilities that are out there with the products that they are embedded in or that they are part of. So that's all things that AI and the algorithms can help with, without a doubt. This is really useful, in particular for real-time threat intelligence, for your automated risk assessments to see where you stand and what's your posture, and to be able to do some predictive analytics around security as well.
Will SBOMs become mandatory across all industries in the future?
Certainly evidence shows we're already seeing, the SBOM mandates expand across multiple sectors. Again, healthcare, finance, critical infrastructure, and others that are probably going to raise their hand. I would say manufacturing, automotive industries, things like that. We're going to see a lot more of that, based on current climate right now, global manufacturing and things like that. But with the increasing cyber threats that are out there and the different regulatory pressures, it's likely the SBOMs are going to become a standard requirement across all industries to some extent. May take a little while for others to get there, but some we're going to see much, much sooner. It's not going to just be government agencies, though, is really the answer there. So as your global supply chain risks grow, organizations are going to need to adopt. They're going to need to adopt SBOMs. They're going to want to ensure that their software, that you have transparency into it, that it's secure, and that you're compliant once again with any mandates that you need to meet.
Perfect. Thanks, Terry. Those were all of the pre-submitted questions that we had for today's webinar. And it looks like we do have one question so far in the chat. I'll pull that up really quickly. Does SBOM Manager, I guess the SBOM Manager tool, work with WordPress?
As far as a platform for it to run on, I know right now it's a hosted cloud-based solution. If you're using, I'm just trying to think here as somebody who does a lot of work with our own website and using WordPress, I believe the answer would be yes, as far as working with it and being integrating with it or providing SBOMs from it. I need to think of the form of the question here or what the intent is, but I would believe the answer would be yes. I would say though the platform itself, the tool that you interact with though, is a hosted solution primarily. So I'll tell you what, that's a question what we can do, LaToya, is let's get the intent or the basis of the question and make sure we're answering it properly. And
Absolutely,
we will follow
I like
up on
that.
That's the best way to handle that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, we'll turn it over to those attending. Please feel free to drop any other questions in the chat. Oh, looks like we have
I've had another one there. Go ahead.
Yes. And if you'd like to come off mute to ask your question, feel free to do that as well, if you want.
And do that or read it. Either way works for me.
Either way. Oh, and if you are shy, I can definitely read that too.
Go ahead, LaToya.
Does SBOM Manager detect the bill of material, or is the bill of material provided by the OEM?
Okay, great. That's another great question. It's something that in trying to keep things brief, we didn't go into that level of detail. The SBOM is typically provided by the OEM, your publisher, or by your internal application development teams. Whoever's developed that is the one that provides it to you in that JSON file that I said in like Cyclone DX or SWID or SPIDX formats. And what happens is the file itself gets uploaded into SBOM Manager. And what we do is a couple things. We deconstruct it. So if there's a case where, Log4j has its own compartment. So whether Log4j came in with one product Or with 50 products, Log4j goes in there one time, and we make a correlation that here's another product that has Log4j. I'm oversimplifying, but you don't put Log4j in there 50 times. You just might say, we already have this in here. We're connecting it to this product. You deconstruct that SBOM and what its components are. We do a couple other things. So we bring in the SBOM, we put all the pieces on the right shelf where they go, and we let you know, we make the connection to the product or the SBOM they came in with. What we also do is we do error checking. So we can tell that if the last 5 times an SBOM came in that had this, and this, but this time it came in and 2 of the things are missing, we know that, well, this component 9 times out of 10 looks like this. We can fill in those blanks. We can do the error checking, and we'll show you here's what the raw SBOM looked like that was received and uploaded, and here's what the corrected SBOM looks like. So it helps with those sorts of things. So to go back to the answer, the SBOM manager doesn't create them or find them. It's something that's provided to you from the publisher or the software developer. And then those are very, very quickly, it's a split-second process. They're brought in, they're checked for consistency and accuracy, they're deconstructed and indexed, and then you're good to go. It's very, very quick and easy to do.
Perfect. I hope Terry was able to answer that question. Very great and thorough response for sure. Are there any other questions or comments at this time? Going once, going twice. All right. If you do think of any questions, feel free to reach out to either the SIE Group or Eracent, and we'll definitely get those questions answered. Oh, we've got another one.
Okay.
Well, compliance, vulnerabilities, and updates to plugins that might have licensing. Security is always an evolving issue, and wondered how or if SBOM could be used. So that's, I guess, follow-up information for the first question about SBOM manager working with WordPress.
Well, when you look at, let's say you're looking at, as you said, you have plugins, you have things get introduced. Let's say plugins, integrations, all these things that basically extend outside of a core product. Those are the kind of things, once again, if it is code of any type like that, and a plugin certainly would qualify, or updates or options or features, they should also have their own SBOM. If it's anything you're going to install and put into play on your network, it should have an SBOM, and I would absolutely recommend that that's something that should be vetted. Once again, just like even if it was the biggest of the biggest software packages, check those out before you put them in, because I can imagine there will be the enterprising hackers out there. They'll think, nobody's going to check this. They're just going to do an install. So I would certainly say you will want to make sure you have an SBOM for it, and go ahead and take the extra. It's literally minutes to do the check on that.
Perfect. If my memory serves me correctly, I know a lot of plugins for WordPress are generally on the cringe side for me. So I do appreciate that, having something like SBOM Manager can help me or other people on the call or others.
I think there was the person who had asked the question I just saw in chat made the comment that, you're right. People typically will cut corners or won't bother. And I think that, bad actors know that, and they're going to look for the easy way to, sure, I'm just going to click that and upload it, and oops, shouldn't have done that. So, okay.
Perfect.
Go ahead, Latoya.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, we have about 10 minutes left, I believe, in the webinar for our conclusion and next steps. So as we bring this conversation to a close, I just wanted to bring back a few of the key takeaways that should be blooming in your minds right now as we are continuing on with our spring theme. So SBOMs are no longer a nice to have anymore, okay? They are going to be mission critical. They're a mission critical tool for enhancing supply chain security, maintaining compliance, and managing software risks. Okay, so big takeaway on that. Also, whether in the public or private sector, SBOMs will help you stay ready, resilient, and responsive in the face of emerging cyber threats. So agencies must adopt the SBOMs to meet federal cybersecurity mandates. And then again, within the other or the commercial space, getting all the information that you can up front about SBOMs, like in this webinar today, will help you stay diligent in the face of those cyber attacks. Lastly, tools like Eracent's SBOM Manager. The path to implementation doesn't have to be complicated. As you saw, we were able to have this conversation with you today and hopefully give you some great takeaways. And again, Eracent's SBOM Manager, you know, the process to get that adoption and then look at the implementation. See, y'all are struggling with vulnerability. I'm struggling with that one. It can be streamlined, smart, and strategic. Okay. Are there any last minute remarks from you, Terry, before we close out?
Yeah, sure. Now, as always, thank you to everybody who joined us today. We hope there was something informative for you, something that maybe leveled up, as Latoya said, your SBOM knowledge. If you do have follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to, obviously, the team that's on the webinar here. You can visit Eracent's website at eracent.com. There are data sheets and white papers on there that talk about the mandates. They talk about Eracent SBOM Manager. And you can also register for a free trial where you're actually able to try SBOM Manager with your own SBOMs to see how quick and easy this is. There are a lot of security tools that have some SBOM functionality in them, but you have to spend $10 million and do 6 months of a POC. And finally, when you're implementing, oh, now we can do the SBOMs with Eracent SBOM Manager. You could sign up today and be managing SBOMs tomorrow. It's that straightforward and simple. I appreciate, with the SIE team, I appreciate the opportunity to be part of the webinar and bring this knowledge to the audience.
Thank you so much, Terry. It's our pleasure to have you. And don't be a stranger. And if you guys did not hear, he said free, okay? It's a free trial. Sign up today and start delving into SBOMs tomorrow. It's that simple. And before we wrap, I do want to give a very, very special shout out to the behind the scenes dream team who helped bring this entire webinar to life. Like, I could not have done this by myself. This was a great project, little baby of mine. So I did not want to let the opportunity pass without giving my appreciation to Miss Lori Shrout, Miss Amy Grosso, and Mr. Adam McElwain. Thank you for your coordination, dedication, and countless details. Behind the scenes, you all made this look so easy. I just had to show up and put a face on, and we're here. To everyone who joined us today, thank you for showing up and engaging with us on this important conversation about SBOMs. And again, thank you to our Rockstar panel for bringing their insight, questions, and expertise to the table. We hope you're walking away feeling informed, inspired, and just a little more ready to spring forward within your own organization about getting involved in this whole world of SBOMs and how, you can be ready. Because what? You want to stay ready so you don't have to get ready. If you've got questions again, or you want to take the next step, let's keep that conversation going. You can connect with our team or also with Eracent, as Terry mentioned, to learn more. Also, be on the lookout. If you are going to be at the ITAM conference this month, both SIE and Eracent will be there.
Yep.
It's April 22nd through 24th. Of course, you see Terry Dival-Bliss here. And then Mark Feynman, our very own, will be presenting as well. And I have their contact information here if you wanted to connect with them ahead of your trip to Las Vegas.
Latoya, if I can add.
Yes.
Eracent, including myself, we will also be at the Gartner Cyber and Risk Summit the first week of June in National Harbor, Maryland. So
very nice.
If anybody is going, we'd be happy to show you SBOM Manager in person there.
Awesome. Terry, please send us those details and we'll include that as an additional slide. And again, these slides will be provided to everyone who attended at the end, along with the live recording once that's all wrapped up and finalized.
Right.
So again, guys, thank you all so much for joining. Stay safe, stay sharp, and remember, it's always a good season to spring forward with SBOMs. Thank you all so much. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you.